Hello, everybody. My name is Tyler Russo, and this is the KO Podcast, episode number 17. Finally, UFC 280 is here. I cannot wait to talk about this card. I've been excited ever since this card was announced. This is a very, very stacked card. Last weekend's UFC card was, in my eyes, an appetizer to this card, so I cannot wait to get into this card with you today. Also, I want to talk some boxing over the past weekend, so ring that bell. All right, let's get into this card. The first fight I want to highlight is Muhammad Mokaev taking on Malcolm Gordon. That is a flyweight bout. Mokaev is a very highly touted prospect. He is 8-0 and only 22 years old. Just that alone is a very impressive. In my opinion, I believe this guy is a future champion at the flyweight level. If you just watch him perform, you can just tell that he is something very, very special, and I cannot wait for this fight to happen. It's going to be interesting. Mokaev, if he wins, who does he get next? Will he get a ranked opponent? So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with a victorious Mokaev. Moving on, we have a middleweight bout. We have Armenian Petrosian taking on AJ Dobson. That should be a fun fight. Another fight I want to highlight, we got a light heavyweight bout. We got Volkan Ozdemir taking on Nikita Krylov. This should be a pretty fun fight. They both fought on the England card for the UFC, their last one, I believe. Ozdemir fought Paul Craig, and Paul Craig was kind of doing his best impression of Ryan Hall, just kind of laying on his back and pulling guards. So, Ozdemir, he played that game very smart, and that's why he came away with that victory. On the other side, Krylov, he's coming off of a first-round finish of Alexander Gustafsson. Very impressive performance by Krylov. So this is going to be a very interesting fight. Krylov is usually a fast starter, so expect this first round to be fireworks. Moving on, we have Murdoch taking on Khalil Borralho, and Borralho is a fast-rising middleweight. He came into the UFC from the Contender Series. All of his performances have been very impressive. He's 12-1. And, I'm excited to see, just him continue to rise through the ranks and really round out his game. He's got a really well-rounded game already, but, I'm sure he is constantly working on getting better. So, every fight for him, he should look better. He is only 29, so he's just right in that sweet spot of his prime. So this is definitely an opportunity for him to make a run in the middleweight division. Moving on to the main event of the prelims, because of this card being so stacked, this fight would definitely be a main card fight. But for this card, it is the prelim main event. We have two welterweights going out. We got Belal Muhammad and Sean Brady. This is going to be a very interesting grappling affair. Both guys are very strong wrestlers, very strong grapplers. So is this fight going to stay standing up? Are we going to see a lot of stand-up in this fight? Usually when two grapplers get in the cage together, sometimes it becomes just a stand-up affair. So I'm interested to see where these two decide to take this fight. Like I said, both elite grapplers. Sean Brady, an impressive 15-0. Belal Muhammad has faced a lot of the top guys in the welterweight division. So this is a big test for Brady to see if he really belongs in the UFC welterweight top 10. Now, let's move on to this main card. We have a very interesting women's flyweight bout to kick it off. We have Katlyn Chookagian taking on Manon Fiorot. These two were supposed to fight on the UFC France card, but that did not end up happening, and neither of them fought on the card, actually, because Farrat's replacement opponent ended up falling out, so that fight just never really came to fruition. So, Farrat, she is, a very fast rising prospect, in this division. She is 9-1, and with a win over Caitlin Korjinian, this is going to catapult her right into that women's flyweight rankings. Currently, Caitlin Korjinian is the number one UFC women's flyweight. So this is a huge fight for both of them. For Korjinian, it's to keep her number one contender spot so she can maybe get a run at that title. For Manon Farrat, she is the number 6 flyweight, so that's a big jump from 6-1 if she can get this done. This is going to be, I believe, a really fun fight. Farrat is a very fun fighter. She always is coming forward with that pressure, and her striking is really crisp. Moving on, we have a lightweight bout. We have Beneil Dariush taking on Martins Gamrot. And, man, what a fun fight. This is Gamrot coming off a big decision win against Sarukian. And, Gamrot, he's 21-1. Very impressive record. We got Beneil Dariush, who has been here in the UFC lightweight division. His last win was against Tony Ferguson, I believe. That is Dariush. So he's had some time off. He hasn't fought since May of 2021. So it is great to see him back in the octagon. So this is a very interesting matchup. A lot of these fights seem to be established contenders taking on these fast rising prospects in these divisions. So, it's going to be a very interesting fight. Moving on, this bantamweight fight, I think I am a little more excited for than the title fight. We have Peter Yan taking on Sean O'Malley, and I say that I'm more excited for this fight than the championship fight, just because I feel like there is a lot of unknown variables going into this fight. Sean O'Malley being the big unknown. Now, yes, he did have, like a round and a half fight with Munoz before it became a no contest because O'Malley poked Munoz and Munoz could not continue. And that fight was really disappointing for me because I really believed that was going to be Sean O'Malley's kind of coming out party for this top bantamweight division. Unfortunately, like I said, it was a no contest. So I walked away with that fight still kind of with a lot of questions, and now this fight will answer a lot of questions once the dust settles. Peter Yan, obviously the former bantamweight champion. This is a huge test for Sean O'Malley, and the UFC has came out and said that the winner of this fight will get the next shot at the bantamweight title. So just imagine Sean O'Malley gets that next shot. That would be insane. But Yan is not a pushover at all. Peter Yan is a beast. I mean, he's still one of the most powerful bantamweights in the division. I mean, really, Sean O'Malley's going to have to use his lengthy reach to really have Yan pushed back. I just believe that O'Malley, he's got to use his kicks. He's got to use his jabs to keep Yan at range. And, O'Malley, I think he's going to get he's going to have a lot of success if he can keep this fight on the outside. And he's going to mix in those kicks and punches because I know Yan is going to mix in those kicks and punches. It's going to be a very interesting affair, but the fallout of this fight is huge. And, I mean, the stakes are almost as big as a championship fight. Moving on to the co-main event, we have the bantamweight champ Aljamain Sterling defending his title against two-time UFC bantamweight champ TJ Dillashaw. Now, TJ Dillashaw hasn't fought in, I believe, a year because of injuries that he sustained in his fight with Corey Sandhagen. That was a very, very close fight, a very tough fight for TJ Dillashaw. I had Sandhagen winning that fight because of the damage that he inflicted on TJ Dillashaw. And Dillashaw had to have a lot of surgery after that fight, so that says how hurt Sandhagen made him. But TJ Dillashaw, you got to give him the respect of being a two-time champ. Obviously he had to vacate the title, or he was stripped of it because he popped for substances under USADA. So he got stripped of his title. He served his suspension, fought that one fight against Sandhagen, and now he is back trying to reclaim the bantamweight title. On the other side, Aljamain Sterling, he had those two fights with Jan. The second fight, Sterling really impressed me with his grappling and just how he controlled Jan. And I just think Aljamain Sterling's grappling is going to be too much for Dillashaw. So I'm going to go Sterling winning and retaining his title in this fight. Now, moving on to the main event, we have Charles "Do Bronx" Oliveira taking on Islam Makhachev. Man, this fight is amazing. Let's start with the champion, Charles Oliveira. He's not really the champion. Actually, the lightweight title is vacated because Oliveira lost his championship on the scale in his last fight. But to many, Charles Oliveira is considered the lightweight champ. But officially, the title is vacated or vacant. And so, very interesting matchup. Charles Oliveira, he's fought the best of the best in his last couple fights. He's beaten Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier. He's beaten Michael Chandler. So he's gone through the top contenders in this division. And Islam Makhachev just hasn't faced that competition. Now, is it his fault that he hasn't faced that competition? No, but that doesn't take away that he just does not have that experience. But Khabib is in his corner, so that's definitely a plus. That's a big plus. That's a big variable. Don't discount that Khabib being in his corner gives him an advantage. It sure does. Khabib is looking like he is going to be an amazing coach for years to come. He's already coaching a bunch of guys, and they are all having really good success. But Makhachev, he's known for his wrestling, obviously. And, his striking, he is not a slouch in the striking department. His striking definitely gets overlooked just because, he usually really wants to get the fight to the ground. He wants to wrestle. And, he's got elite wrestling. He's got really, really good submission game, Makhachev. But with Charles Oliveira, he's shown time and time again that he can get knocked down, and he will get back up, or he'll just stay in his guard and dare you to jump into it. Now, that's going to be the big variable in this fight. Is Makhachev, if Charles Oliveira gets into his guard, will Makhachev jump into his guard and challenge him there? Because we haven't seen anybody do that yet. Chandler did jump into his guard for a brief moment in that fight, and he almost got submitted by Oliveira, but he managed to fight out of that. That's really the big what if in this fight, because we just really haven't seen anybody jump into Charles Oliveira's guard. Now, obviously, everybody respects his submission game, and he's an elite jiu-jitsu player. So, man, this fight just gets me so excited. I cannot wait for this card. I'm going to take Charles Oliveira to be the new lightweight champion. I just think he has a bit more tools than Makhachev, but who knows? We will see. UFC 280. Damn, what a card that is. Now I want to touch on some of the boxing that happened over the weekend. We have a lot of boxing to cover from last weekend. I'm just going to go over some of the fights from each event. Starting off the Saturday, we had an all-women's card that took place at the O2 Arena in London. The co-main event was Mayer versus Bumgardner, and the main event was Shields versus Marshall. Both the co-main and the main event were very, very entertaining fights. So kudos to all four of those women for putting on exciting fights. Bumgardner got the split decision win in the co-main event. Very, very close fight. And then the main event, Shields and Marshall. What a show they put on. Man, Shields just was going at Marshall. Such an exciting fight. It definitely held my attention. And again, just a huge, huge night for women's boxing. I'm so glad that they can finally get that limelight shined on them because they deserve it. Shields, pound for pound, the best women's boxer right now. She definitely showed that. She went into her opponent's backyard and beat her. Shields, I mean, man, that was such a great performance by her. Then later in the day, we had Daney versus Kambosos 2. That was a great fight as well. And Daney retains his undisputed lightweight championships. It was similar to the first fight. Daney just a step ahead of Kambosos. I believe Daney, at the weigh-ins, he looked really drained. Both of them looked drained, but Daney looked he looked drained. So I don't know if he's going to be able to make the lightweight weight anymore. He might have to move up, but I believe his talent will make him a champ. If he decides to move up or if he has to move up. Daney, he's only 23. I just feel like he's going to be a champion in whatever weight class he wants to be in for a long time. Then we also had Caleb Plant. He got a vicious KO in his fight, and he did a little Tito Ortiz after it, burying his opponent's grave. I haven't seen that celebration in a long time. So shout out to the old winning days of Tito Ortiz burying his opponents. And then also, that was the co-main event. And the main event of that card was Wilder. Deontay Wilder is back. The touch of death. It didn't even look like he punched his opponent that hard, but his opponent was staring at the lights for a long time, knocked out. I mean, when Deontay Wilder knocks out people, those knockouts are scary. So it's going to be very interesting to see Deontay Wilder. Who does he fight next? Tyson Fury did just announce that he will be facing Derek Chisora. I believe that's how you say his name. So Tyson Fury, he has a fight. So let's see how the heavyweight division pans out. I mean, I still believe that Fury is going to be the champ. But let's see what happens in that fight. And that is going to do it for this episode of the KO Podcast. To stay in touch with the podcast, follow the podcast on Twitter. Go and type in the KO Podcast with Tyler Russo, and I will pop up. Twitter is where I am most active. If you want to get in touch with me, Twitter is the best place to do it. We also have an Instagram page, the KO_podcast. That is on Instagram. And we have a YouTube channel. Just type in the KO Podcast with Tyler Russo, and the podcast will pop up. We also have a new interview with Bellator featherweight Kai Kamaka. It was a great interview. Go check that out if you haven't already. And that is going to do it for this episode. Have a safe and blessed day. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Bye-bye.